The Dharma, incomparably profound and exquisite, is rarely met with even in hundreds of thousands of millions of kalpas. We now can see it, hear it, accept and hold it. May we realize the true mind of the Tathagata. And that realizing means not just opening to it, but bringing it to life in everything we do or say or think. Today is day 4 of this Rohatsu Sesshin in honor of the Buddha and his own deep awakening that set the whole ball rolling, so that eventually people all the way into this century could learn how to do what he did, which was open to the deepest access of his own mind, to fathom his mind, and as a result, to see the truth with a capital T, to transform, letting go his conditioning and becoming able to live every moment of that truth for the rest of his life. And that model is the same as our Rohatsu Sesshin. 7 nights and 8 days of deepening meditation practice. I'd like to share again with you the Rohatsu exhortations of the great Japanese Zen master Hakuin. This is his exhortation for the 4th night. The master said, the breathing exercise, Susokkan, is composed of 6 wondrous entrances to enlightenment. 6 wondrous entrances to enlightenment, and indeed it is. We don't even have to talk about 6. 1 is enough. And that's what happens when we extend the out-breath over and over and over again, reaching deep, deep into that out-breath. Breathing out as far as we possibly can with the experience of the felt sense of our body and the curiosity, the need to know who we really are, what life really is about. Is it just that we're born and we live, we die? That's it? Or is there something more? And what about this life and this death? People all over the world fear death as if it was a great terror and they were going to be dropped into the deepest hells. It's easy enough to create a hell on earth. We don't need to die to get there. But is that what happens? And is it an end? Well, it's certainly an end to who we think we are at that moment. We can't drag that in with us. But life is eternal. Here and there are these little blips on this immeasurable timeline from beginning, never ending, that we call birth and death. On the other hand, every moment of the day we encounter birth and death. Each moment is new and different, whether or not we try to draw the last moment into it and hold on to it tightly. It slides away. And anyone who does much Zen practice recognizes that right from the get-go, because we can open to a wonderful mind state in our meditation and then and revel in it, and then it starts to slip away. We go scrambling after it to no avail. That wondrous mind state, if it wasn't a Makyo, was most likely a moment or two when we really let go enough that we could get a glimpse, not enough to call it awakening at all, but a glimpse of a spaciousness that wasn't filled with ideas, conditioning, and so on. But the conditioning is strong in human beings, and that's why the Susokkan is so vital, because it cuts right through it. You cannot extend the out-breath to the point where you do, if you call it Susokan, without letting go. It's impossible. As you breathe out this long, eternally long out-breath, you're also fully aware of the bodily experience of that. And as it gets closer towards the end of that breath, when you're beginning to have to push it out, you have to gather your awareness and your focus to that moment or those moments, because it can't happen otherwise. And in gathering your focus and your awareness in those moments, you have to let go everything else. It naturally happens. You cannot focus otherwise. You cannot take the breath far enough out otherwise. You can do a certain amount of multitasking, extending the out breath. It can go so far without you paying much attention to it. That's not the point. And that robs yourself of the gift of that extended out breath. Because as you get towards the end of it, like I said, it requires a focus and a presence and an awareness in order to accomplish that. And that also requires a letting go. It naturally happens. We cannot pay attention to two things at the same time with that quality of focus that is required to push the out breath far enough out. To continue, the first, called Su, is counting the breaths and entering samadhi. And obviously you get to a point where you don't have to count all the time. That's an initial aid when one is beginning this practice. And this extension of the out-breath with total presence brings you naturally into samadhi, if you continue the practice. Mastering it, you merge with your inhalations and exhalations and enter into samadhi, reaching the next entrance called Sui, following the breath. The breathing exercise is explained as having 16 different characteristics as well, but in the end, they all return to the first two practices of counting and following the breath. Thus it was that the first Zen patriarch, the great Bodhidharma, said, "Stop all external connections, have no concerns within, make the mind a stone wall, and enter the great way." It's a more accurate way of expressing this. It's let go all existing connections, external or internal. And sometimes it's been translated as letting go all external conditions or anything you're attracted to externally, concerns, and also letting go any inner concerns as well, and making the mind. Now that's a kind of a funny one. What you want to do is focus totally, completely in one direction. Not looking left, not looking right. And of course, things are going to come into your mind. Fragments of talks, little bits of song, sometimes over and over again. It's like sort of like flies buzzing around, or like the dogs barking in the neighborhood, or a truck that decelerates by gearing down on the highway and so makes a loud noise. Those things, you just let them be what they are. Allow them to take care of themselves. They will. There's no need to get involved in them, although we are so tempted to, because until we reach a certain point, part of us wants to step out of this search because it feels dangerous. letting go. But I need to be in charge. I can't behave appropriately otherwise. Well, you'd be surprised, actually. And you can't reach this true liberation that you want to reach without letting go. It's impossible. Yet it's as they say so often, let go your hold on the cliff and drop, hands held high into the fiery abyss. That's what it can feel like until you let go. And then you drop into a miracle, and it's very different. Before that point where we're willing to let go our hold on that cliff, metaphorical cliff, there's a push me, pull you for quite a while in practice. And some moments we have moments of feeling like we are on the way to liberation. Other moments we have a kind of an ego backlash. Oh no, you're not going there. That's too scary. It's too comfy where we are. It's familiar. It may be painful, but it's familiar, and that's worth everything. This unknown, forget about it. And yet we have to allow ourselves to open to the unknown. In a way, that's the name of practice to begin with, is opening ourselves to the unknown, reaching deep within this unknown, searching for the truth. Stop all external connections, and again I would say let go all external connections, and let go any concerns within too. Commit to going further, straight ahead, without wavering. And we will waver. And we'll kind of go down the road like this, maybe. Oops, oh, back here. That's the path. Oh, no, that's the path. But the more we do our practice, the less we have these side trips. And the more effective and the more deep our practice goes. And the closer we reach to the moment where we can open to at least a small glimpse of reality. And of course, you've heard so many times, that's not a stopping point. There's so much further to go. And along with so much further to go, there's also what's called the long maturation, which is to bring what you've realized into your life so that you behave in the way that you've opened to. It involves a lot of hard work, releasing old habit patterns, daring to walk into the unknown over and over and over again. Having no concerns means not relying on the fundamental source. Making the mind a stone wall means going straight ahead. This verse of the first patriarch is exceedingly profound. You should make it a fundamental koan. Strive for all you're worth to take it right straight ahead. If you do, your kensho is assured. You can be more certain of that than you can of reaching down and feeling the ground at your feet. Strive hard, strive hard. And that's our ancestor Hakuin speaking out of his own experience. He had 19 major kensho experiences. Kensho literally means in Japanese seeing into, meaning seeing into the true nature of reality. And it wasn't until the final one that all his doubts, all his concerns, all his anxieties, and he had plenty of anxieties, let go. Because Hakuin started practice out of a tremendous fear of falling into hell if he didn't do something to prevent it. As a kid, and he was the usual boy, he and his buddies did mischievous things. like killing crows with their slingshots and other things. Not to mention using his little bow and arrow set inside a traditional Japanese house, which of course has paper walls, and creating a direct bullseye through the eye of the scroll that his older brother had bought that was hanging on the opposite wall. And so he was sure that he would go to hell if he didn't do something. And his mother was a devout Buddhist, although not a Zen Buddhist, and took him to any number of lectures where they would extol with graphic descriptions the dangers of the hells that one would fall into if one didn't behave right. And in one of these lectures, there was a play, apparently at some point in history, technically, there was a priest that was condemned to being punished by the unique method of having a red-hot bowl, iron bowl, placed on his head. That's a kind of an odd punishment. At any rate, in the play, of course, the priest just stood there happily, without any screaming, no obvious suffering. And that led young Hakuin, who was like 10 or 11 years old at the time, to get the idea that if he became a Buddhist priest, a Buddhist monk, that he would escape hell. And so he finally convinced his parents to allow him to ordain when he was 13 years old, 14 by the Eastern calendar. And he set about doing practice not first in the Zen sect, but eventually transferring into the Zen sect. And when he heard the story of Ganto, who was a Chinese master of deep realization, who was murdered by thieves when he was something like in his early 50s, pretty young, and screamed so loud that it was heard for 9 miles. And poor old Hakuin thought, how can somebody enlightened scream in pain when they're being murdered? He joined the monkhood in order to avoid that. And suddenly here is someone who's known to be deeply realized and does that. It completely demoralized him. Well, obviously, things changed for him, and we don't need to go into that, but he was a very anxious person until a certain point in his life. And he persisted in the practice to the point where he had 19 major Kensho experiences and countless minor ones. That is a model we would do well to emulate. And now I'd like to share with you something from this wonderful Tibetan teaching book. This is the words, in translation of course, of Longchenpa, who is one of the most highly regarded Buddhist masters in the Tibetan tradition. And this is called "You Are the Eyes of the World." And that, in a nutshell, right there, is a teisho. You are the eyes of the world. You are the eyes of the world. So I'll take a little bit from here and share it with you today. This is from a section called Becoming Certain Through Perspective, the Play of Experience. All that is has me, universal creativity, pure and total presence at its root. Universal creativity, pure and total presence. That's quite a description of our our true mind. This is who each one of us is. And at some level we intuit that, or possibly even remember it from some other life. And are sitting here in the Zendo on the 4th day of Sesshin, working towards uncovering that. All that is has me, universal creativity, pure and total presence as its root. How things appear is my being. How things arise is my manifestation. Sounds and words heard are my messages expressed in sounds and words. Me. And you, and you, and you, and all of us, everywhere. And the trees. And that truck mentioned some time ago. And the dogs, and the clouds, and the wind, and the rain. All the capacities, forms, and pristine awarenesses of the Buddhas, the bodies of sentient beings, their habituations, and so forth, all environments and their inhabitants, life forms and experiences, are the primordial state of pure and total presence. This is why being present is so important in our practice, not to mention in our life. Awareness, attention, presence. Probably the most important teaching in Zen practice is attention, to pay attention. We all think we're paying attention, and then we leave a trail behind us. If we're truly present, there is no trail behind us, not one of energy, not one of leftover stuff. And here comes to mind the saying, a bodhisattva leaves no traces. And we're all bodhisattvas in the making. Junior bodhisattvas, bodhisattvas in training. So the more we can pay attention to everything, going up the stairs, sitting down, working wherever we're working, total focus and attention in that moment. And as we're about to leave that work or that environment, still total attention, which means we clean up after ourselves when that's possible. And it's usually possible unless there's some time deadline. And then other people generally jump in to help. But it's about tiny little things. This is perhaps why Dogen was so specific, precise about every little thing in terms of the training. Where you put your toothbrush down, and whether it's still gumi from just brushing your teeth, or whether you rinsed it off and are placing it in a place where it won't muck up the counter. Even little things like that. Where you leave your shoes. How you sit on the cushion. Not how you sit on it, but how you get down onto it. Are you truly paying attention? In every single moment. This is actually ongoing Zen practice, particularly if all along the way you're trying to discern who it is that is doing things. Who is it that put that toothbrush down, however we put it down? Where is that person? Where is that being? How do I know I'm me? All of these questions can be wordlessly asked 24/7. And in that way, the practice continues 24/7 as well. Without understanding me, the creator, the creativity of the universe, but investigating the phenomena that I manifest, you perceive everything dualistically, due to your attachment and longing. Impermanent, apparitional things will fade away. They are aimless like a blind man. All that is experienced and your own mind are the unique primary reality. All that is experienced and your own mind are the unique primary reality. They cannot be conceptualized according to the cause and effect system of thought. Investigate your mind's real nature so that your pure and total presence will actually shine forth. That is our practice. We've had now almost 4 full days of practice. Our ability to go deeper has expanded. We have greater power. We have greater concentration, whether it feels like it or not, and it may feel like we don't because we're becoming more aware of where we aren't aware. Take it to heart. Sashina's going well. Keep it going. Keep that practice going. It will be so worth it. Ignore it when you get into a mind state that seems like you lost it again. Just embrace that mind state. Feel the energy of that mind state, and suddenly you will be free again. I thank you for listening. We'll stop now and recite the 4 vows.